Assalamu alaikum everyone, I am Shehwar Zara. Today our topic of discussion is difference in genetic organization of prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So the first difference that we are going to discuss is about monocistronic and polycistronic messenger RNA. We have discussed these both terms in our lecture number 6. Here we will take a brief overview. So starting with monocistronic messenger RNA, it is basically the characteristic of eukaryotes. And monocistronic means that the messenger RNA, it encodes only for one protein. So what happened is that after transcription, the transcript formed. So before it goes for the processing of translation, it undergoes a number of changes, and in order to develop into the mature monocistronic eukaryotic transcript. And these series of changes are known as post-transcriptional steps, or you can say post-transcriptional processing. And the steps involved in these processing are number 1, 5' capping, number 2, 3' polyadenylation, and number 3, splicing together of exons if introns are present. So this was the brief overview of the monocistronic messenger RNA. Now let's discuss polycistronic messenger RNA. Polycistronic messenger RNA is the characteristic of bacteria and the chloroplast messenger RNA, and polycistronic means that the messenger RNA, it encodes several proteins. We will discuss its structure detail in the next slide. So here you can see the structure of polycistronic messenger RNA, and so the structure of the polycistronic messenger RNA is that the first thing that is present that precedes the, here you can see the multiple genes, gene A, gene B, gene C. So the first thing is this sequence. This is basically the leader sequence, and this leader sequence, here it is written in AGG, you can see it. It is basically the preceding sequence. It is the first thing that is present before the gene that follows it, means it precedes the gene. You can see this Shine-Dalgarno sequence, it precedes the gene A. After that the gene is present, and in between the two genes you can see it is marked as intercistronic spacers. So intercistronic spacers is basically their function is to control the genes that are present in this vicinity, means that are present in it between and before it. And this intercistronic spacers is basically also known as intergenic region, and it is the stretch of DNA sequence. Other functions of intercistronic spacers are not known yet. Then you can see then the second gene is present, that is gene B. Then the third gene, then again the intercistronic spacers are present, and then the gene C is present. And after this the last gene, the trailer sequence, it follows the last gene, though it is not shown in the diagram, but in actual when the last gene comes in the sequence, it is followed by the trailers. Our next difference is regarding the presence and absence of histones. So in eukaryotes, histone proteins are present, and you are familiar with this name as well as the structure. So let's discuss this. In eukaryotes, because if we take the example of human DNA, it is about 3 meters in length, and 3 meters, if you imagine the thread of 3 meters, it is quite long enough. And just imagine that if you try to put this 3-meter thread inside the cell, what will happen? Cell is the microscopic body, okay? So microscopic thing, and cell is already so small. So what will happen is that your 3-meter thread, or here we consider the 3-meter DNA, it will just become tangled. It will be in the disorganized shape, not in the organized structure. So in order to put this DNA in the organized way, histone proteins are present, and these histone proteins together with the DNA form the nucleosome. Nucleosome is basically the fundamental unit of chromatin, and its protein components are histones, and histones are basically H2A, H2B, H3 and H4. And what happens is that this nucleosome is also known as octamer. The reason for calling this structure as the octamer is that it consists of 8 protein complex, and means 8 histone proteins are present, and around these 8 histone proteins the DNA strand it is being coiled, and in this around 180 nucleotides per 8 histone proteins are present. Here in the diagram, you can see the structure of histone proteins. Here, these circles are histone proteins, and you can see the DNA strand, it is being coiled around it. So, this is the way in which this histone DNA is being formed in the compacted, being present in the compacted form inside the eukaryotes. However, these histone proteins are absent in prokaryotes. We will discuss in the next slide. Here in the picture, you can see that how histones are assembled. So, starting with the DNA strands, first thing is that histones, you can see here this second one after the DNA strand, this one. So, here the DNA strand is being coiled around the histone proteins. Then what happened? These all histone proteins are assembled in a sequence, and after that it is known as this one. This structure is called as nucleosome superhelix. Then you can see that this nucleosome superhelix, it basically it makes the chromatin fiber, and after that chromatin fiber, it is this chromatin fiber, it is being assembled inside the chromosome, and this chromosome you can see in the last they have shown in the entire metaphase chromosome. Now let's discuss the structure of prokaryotic cell, because you know that prokaryotes are unicellular organisms and they lack organelles and the internal membrane bound structures. Therefore, they do not contain a nucleus that is present in eukaryotes. Instead, they have a single chromosome that is actually a piece of circular double stranded DNA, and it is located in an area of cell known as nucleoid. You can here see that it is written the prokaryotic cell, then the plasmid DNA is being mentioned, and the chromosomal DNA, you can see that it is in the form of thread. It is not organized, well organized, just like I have shown you in the eukaryotic cell. The third difference is regarding the repetitive DNA. As we have seen before that the prokaryotic DNA, it is less complex, and so it has less repetitive DNA sequencing, whereas the major portion of eukaryotic genome, it is made up of repetitive DNA sequencing. And this repeat sequencing, they are categorized as microsatellites or mini satellites, and they are not involved in the formation of proteins. So in eukaryotes, these repetitive DNA, they are present in excessive amount, whereas in prokaryotes they are less common. And due to this, due to the smaller size of the prokaryotic genome, the major portion of it is active. So this repetitive DNA that is present in the prokaryotes, it is basically the non-coding DNA sequence, and which I have told you that the smaller size prokaryotic genome, its major portion is active and it is involved in protein formation. If we take the example of human genome, 97% of the human genome, it is made up of non-coding DNA sequence which do not code any protein. However, this non-coding DNA sequence, it is required for the regulation of gene expression. So repetitive DNA, you have understood this, that it is basically the sequencing that are repeated in the eukaryotic cell. And so this was about the repetitive DNA, and this repetitive DNA, the difference is that this repetitive DNA, it makes up the major portion of all the nuclear DNA in the most eukaryotic genomes. Our next difference is about the central dogma, and the central dogma, you know, it is basically the transcription and translation processes that takes place. So the major difference between the both is the first picture that you are seeing in the slide is about prokaryotes. So in prokaryotes, both the processes of transcription and translation, they are coupled, means that the translation begins while the messenger RNA is still being synthesized through transcription, and both the processes, they takes place inside the cytoplasm, Whereas in this picture, it is basically the eukaryotic process of transcription and translation. So what happened is that you can see the nucleus, and inside the nucleus transcription occurs, and once the transcript is formed, it is being transferred from the nucleus into the cytoplasm for the translation, and then the protein synthesis takes place. So this is also the difference of genetic organization between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Now let's discuss the differences between prokaryotic DNA versus eukaryotic DNA. So the first difference is that prokaryotic DNA we have studied, it is found in cytoplasm of the prokaryotic cell, and it is in the form of circular plasmid. Whereas eukaryotic DNA, it is found in the nucleus of the cell, inside the chloroplast, and also the mitochondria. DNA of prokaryotes is not found in organelles, as organelles are absent in prokaryotes, whereas in eukaryotes some DNA is present inside the chloroplast and mitochondria. The third difference is that prokaryotic DNA, it consists of one copy of the genome, whereas eukaryotic DNA, it consists of more than one copy of the genome. The fourth is prokaryotic DNA, it contains smaller number of genes, whereas eukaryotic DNA, it consists of more than large number of genes. The fifth is prokaryotic DNA, it is organized into a single chromosome, we have seen in the diagram, whereas eukaryotic DNA, it is organized into many chromosomes. The other differences are that the prokaryotic DNA, it is not packed with histones, whereas histones are present in eukaryotic DNA we have discussed, and it is prokaryotic DNA is circular, whereas eukaryotic DNA, it is linear with two ends. And in prokaryotes, introns are absent, and in eukaryotes, introns are present. Then the difference is that the replication, DNA replication, it occurs in cytoplasm within prokaryotes, whereas in eukaryotes this DNA replication takes place inside the nucleus. Then that chromosome in prokaryotes, it contains a single region of replication, whereas in eukaryotes chromosome contains many region of replication. Then there is that prokaryotic DNA replication is rapid because it is not a complex process, unlike eukaryotes, which DNA replication is slow. Then the next difference is that in prokaryotes, transposons are present, whereas in eukaryotes, transposons are absent. They do not consist of transposons. What are transposons? Transposons, or you can say the transposable elements, or jumping gene, they are also known as that. It is basically the DNA sequence that can change its position within the genome, and sometimes it creates or it reverses mutations and alters the cell genetic identity and as well as the genome size. And this transposition process, it often results into the duplication of same genetic material. So this process is only present in prokaryotes. It consists of transposons. Then you have the difference that prokaryotes, they have more GC content, whereas in eukaryotes T content is more. Okay, and in prokaryotes this GC content is more than the AT content, whereas in eukaryotes T content is more than the GC content. And the size of the DNA in prokaryotes, it is less than 0.1 pg, whereas in eukaryotes the size of the DNA in eukaryotes is basically more than 1 pg. It was less than 0.1 pg, whereas in eukaryotes it is more than 1 pg. Here pg means mass in picograms. It is basically the trillionth, means that 10 to the minus 12 of the gram, and it is abbreviated as pg. So this was all about the difference in genetic organization of the proteins of the prokaryotes and the eukaryotes. Our next topic for today is processing events of messenger RNA, means modification and processing of messenger RNA after transcription. So in bacteria, the messenger RNA molecule, they are translated as the direct copies of the genes, and in eukaryotes the situation is different. and most messenger RNA, it undergoes a number of complicated series of modification and processing events before translation occurs. So these steps or these processing events, they are: number one is chemical modification to the two ends of the messenger RNA molecule. Number two is removal of introns, whereas number three is the RNA editing. RNA editing, it is basically, it occurs in the few special cases, and it is basically alteration to the nucleotide sequence of the messenger RNA, and this alteration is known as RNA editing. So these are the three processes that takes place in the eukaryotes before translation process is started. Here in the diagram you can see the structure of the nucleus, and so what happens is that you know that the nucleus, it consists of the nucleolus, and it is being marked in the diagram. So nucleolus, in nucleolus, ribosomal RNA genes, they are transcribed, whereas in the nucleoplasm other genes, including for those of messenger RNA, they are transcribed. And the nucleoplasmic RNA fraction is known as heterogeneous nuclear RNA or hnRNA. You can see that it is being marked in the diagram. Messenger RNA genes and hnRNA. It is basically the heterogeneous RNA. And this name indicates that this heterogeneous RNA, it is made up of complex mixture of RNA molecules that may be over 20 kilobytes kb in length, and the messenger RNA that is present inside the cytoplasm, it is around 2 kb in length. And for suppose if the messenger RNA in the cytoplasm is derived from the heterogeneous RNA, then the modification and the processing events, including the reduction in the length of the primary transcript, it must occur before the messenger RNA leaves the nucleus. Means all the modifications will take place before this messenger RNA leaves the nucleus. We will now discuss the chemical modifications first that takes place at the ends of eukaryotic messenger RNA. Later on we will deal with the concept that how introns are removed. Here you can see that I have written that heterogeneous RNA, it is 20 kilobytes in length, whereas the messenger RNA that is present inside the cytoplasm, it is 2 kb in length. Now let's discuss the chemical modification at the end of eukaryotic messenger RNA. So the first modification that takes place in eukaryotes is that the eukaryotic messenger RNA are capped, all eukaryotic messenger RNA. And before the modification takes place, the RNA molecule that is synthesized by transcription, it at its 5' end a structure or chemical structure that is triple P and PN. You can see it is written in the orange color. It is present at the 5' end before the modification takes place. Here the N, it represents the sugar, phosphate, whereas the P structure, sugar base, it indicates the sugar base, whereas the P structure, it indicates the phosphate. It's really wrong. So once the modification takes place at the 5' end, the mature messenger RNA, eukaryotic messenger RNA, it will have a chemical structure, more complex chemical structure, that is M7G triple P and PN. You can see it is written. So this M7G triple P and PN, it is basically the cap structure, and this M7G, it is the nucleotide that carries the modified base 7-methylguanine. You can see the structure of 7-methylguanine in the figure, and there methyl is indicated, and this methyl is basically present at the 7th position of the guanine structure. So this is the structure of 7-methylguanine. Here in the diagram you can see the cap structure, and you can see that here it is M7G, and this methyl group, additional methyl is being attached. And one thing that is different in this cap structure is that this unusual bond, this 5' to 5' bond that takes place in between the two nucleotides. So the difference is that this unusual bond, basically normal bond, you know, it takes place between 5' of one nucleotide of one carbon and the 3' of another. But in this cap structure, you can see here, this one, this 5' bond is formed, 5' to 5' bond is formed instead of 5' to 3' bond. So this is an unusual structure, and you can see this whole is the entire is the cap structure. This 5' is attached to one nucleotide, and then this through this bond another nucleotide is being attached, and this, so the chain continues. Here you can see the entire capping process. So in the first is you have the 5' to 3' direction. Here it is the primary transcript. To this primary transcript, G is added, normal G is added to the 5' end. You can see here they have shown this gene is attached, added. Then this G, this guanine, it undergoes methylation at the nitrogen number 7, because I have told you that the cap name is M7G. So the methyl group is being added to the 7 position, 7 terminus. Okay. Then what happened after this methylation process? Additional methylation may occur in some and lastly you can see that first you can see here this methyl group is added, M7G cap is produced, but in some cases additional methyl groups may also be added. Now let's discuss the second processing step, that is polyadenylation. So in polyadenylation, it is the second modification of the most eukaryotic RNAs, and this poly A tail, it is being added to 3' end of the molecule. That length is of 250 A nucleotides. You can see the structure of this poly A tail, that is written in orange color, PNP and PA, and then brackets PA whole and PA. So this is the structure of poly A, and so polyadenylation, what happens is that it does not occur at the 3' end of the primary transcript. Means the transcript that you have obtained after the transcription, this tail is not directly added to that transcript. Instead what happens is that the final few nucleotides that are present, around 10 to 30 nucleotides that are present downstream of the specific polyadenylation signal, they are being removed by a cleavage event. After the removal of this, this poly A tail is being added to the 3' end. Several hypotheses. First, one more thing is that this process of polyadenylation, it takes place, it is being you can say it is being optimized, or you can say it takes place through poly A polymerase. It is an enzyme. And about this, one more thing is that several hypotheses they have been proposed or they have been built about the function of this poly A tail, yet nothing is so confirmed, but a single hypothesis that has been proposed states that this poly A tail, its length determines the time the messenger RNA survive in the cytoplasm before it is being degraded. So this is one of the most accepted you can say the hypothesis about the function of the poly A tail. Now let's discuss that how this poly A tail is being added to the 3' end. You can see in the figure here, you can see this polyadenylation signal. I have told you that AAAU AAA. So what happened is that I have told you before that the poly A tail is not directly added to the primary transcript. Instead what happened, the cleavage reaction, or you can say a cleavage event, takes place downstream of this polyadenylation signal, that is AAU AAA. You can see it here. Okay, here it takes place downstream, means in the direction of 3'. After that, an endonuclease it cuts downstream of the polyadenylation signal. Endonuclease, these are the molecular scissors. Then this poly A tail that consists of around 250 A's, means 250 A's nucleotides, they are being added at the 3' end. So this was all the step of poly A tail, and these we have discussed up till now two processes, post-transcriptional processing that takes place. First is capping and second is the addition of poly A tail. In the next lecture, we will discuss about intron splicing, which is the third step of the post-transcriptional changes, or you can say the post-transcriptional processing. All this data or information, that topics we have discussed today, they have been taken from these sites, and if you want to study further or in depth more, you want to know about these topics, you can visit these sites. I hope you have understand both the processes, the genetic organization and then the cap and the poly A tail, and see you in the next lecture.